My name is Emil, 26, and I have a 5-year-old son. My ex-husband, 29, cheated on me with his coworker, Bethany, 28. I was 2 months pregnant with our second child when I found out Bethany was going to have his child. I miscarried. My ex left the house to be with her. It's been 2 years since it was born. My mother-in-law has been supportive of me and has nothing to do with my ex or his mistress and their child, up until a few months ago. I adore my in-laws and we're extremely close. My mother-in-law and parents are the best of friends. She loves me and her grandson more than anything. This infuriates my ex-husband's affair partner. My in-laws cut contact with them straight away. Bethany was jealous that her child would never know the love of grandparents. At least her son has a father. This brings us to the problem. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law has been very ill for a while, and so she's updated her will. My ex-husband was an only child, so he would get everything. But now, my son will inherit her house, villa, and money. I will receive a large portion of her money and all of her belongings. Until my son turns 18, it will be in my trust, and if I pass before that, my parents will take care of it. They do not know this. You know, it's so refreshing to see the mother-in-law take the daughter-in-law side. You would think it'd be common sense to push away the cheater, right? Even if it's your own son, but a lot of people have a hard time because it's their kin and their flesh and blood. They're like, I'm going to stick by my son, right or wrong. But I have so much respect for this mother-in-law for taking care of her grandson and her daughter-in-law. That's so sweet to see. I love good mother-in-law stories. Okay. The thing is, once they caught wind of her being ill, my ex-husband begged for forgiveness. The mistress started being nice towards her and forced her to be around his baby. She used to start fights with mother-in-law and called her horrible names before. My mother-in-law is bedbound, but she says she wants to leave with a bang, so she'll endure this. I haven't encouraged her to do anything, and this is her choice alone. They want her money, and her son thinks he is still included in the will. He also thinks his child will now be acknowledged by his grandmother and will also receive money. Now, my mother-in-law hasn't actually said she's forgiven them. She despises her son and his mistress for tearing apart our family. She wants to reward those who deserve it and get revenge in one go. The mistress keeps on hinting on how her child will grow up and attend a great college, etc. Money-involved things whenever she's around mother-in-law. Actually, mother-in-law's niece, my cousin by marriage, has overheard her on the phone discussing what wallpaper she wants in the dining room when she moves in and how my mother-in-law has no taste whatsoever. She also mentioned how she'll finally be able to take down pictures of my son when my ex owns the house. Ew, disgusting. Too bad for her, it will belong to my son. No changes will be made until my son becomes 18. It's his grandmother's home and he should be allowed to cherish it in the way she's decorated it. I'm not really allowed to tell anyone, and though this revenge will be satisfying, I'll have to lose my mother-in-law. It's kind of a win-lose situation, and I dread the day when she'll take her last breath. She means a lot to me. I love her. She wants this for her grandson and has said that she cannot rest until she knows her son and his mistress have been punished. She wants this because her childhood was also ruined because of her father and his affair partner. She wants my son to know he was loved and he will always be loved. I hope my son will always value the great woman in his life. I wish she had more time with his grandmother. So she has an edit because apparently some people are angry at her for not asking her mother-in-law to include the affair baby in the will. So this is what she says. As for those who are angry at me for not asking mother-in-law to include my ex's new child, I cannot do anything about that. Yes, I am happy and that's selfish, but I'm going to put myself and my son first. That contributed to my miscarriage and one of the reasons why my son has not had a father for over 2 years. I can't change my mother-in-law's mind about them. I do pity the baby, but it's not up to me to fend for it. It's not my responsibility. I've tried talking to mother-in-law, but she's had her whole childhood ruined because her father had made his affair child his top priority. This is why she wants nothing to do with it or her son. My ex knows that his mom went through so much because of cheaters, yet he decided to do the same to her. He has seen his grandfather favor his aunt and uncle over his mother. If this happened to you, you wouldn't be so happy about sharing yet another thing with the baby. Thank you again for those who have listened to me, and I've read out the nice comments to my mother-in-law, and we've had a great laugh together. The mistress would send me photos of her ultrasound after I miscarried, either to me or my family. In the first envelope, she sent a letter full of the nastiest things about me, my son, and my miscarried baby. She'd even tagged me on social media on an account I didn't know about. It was an invitation to her baby shower. She has done plenty of disgusting and hurtful things to me regarding my miscarried baby. The people who are coming at me in the comments would not be as civil as me if anything like that happened to them. Ignoring her child is honestly the best option. I do not want my son to grow up with her son. And to those who are insulting and saying rude things about my dying mother-in-law, you are truly disgusting. Listen, if I was in that situation, why the hell should I have anything to do with my affair baby? Ew, no. When my child is older, I would give him the option if he wants to have a relationship with his half brother. That's up to him. But no, you're crazy if you think I have any sort of financial, emotional obligation to a child that my ex-husband cheated on me to have. Bye.
Am I the asshole for letting my 4-year-old use all of his money to buy everybody else meals and gifts while we were at Disneyland?
That's so cute. He just wanted to spoil everyone?
Let's see the story.
Okay.
I took my kids to Disneyland Paris for a week with 2 of my friends and their kids. My oldest is 4, but he gets a monthly allowance from his dad that he can, in theory, spend on whatever he wants. The allowance was my husband's idea because I told him he was spoiling our son, but I personally don't think this is the best way to teach him about money. While we were there, my son kept wanting to use, quote, his card to pay for things. And even though I tried to explain to him that his money would run out, he kept insisting and saying it was okay. When his money ran out, he told my husband over FaceTime because he couldn't get the toy he wanted. My husband was really upset that I had let him use all of his money on other people, especially since he spent it on food. He told me that wasn't what his allowance was for and didn't want to listen when I told him he was the one who said our son could use the money on whatever he wanted. Right. He told me he was going to put more money on the card and was insisting I let our son buy the things he wanted, and got angry when I pointed out giving him more money was to find the whole point, especially since I was planning to go back and get him the toy anyways. Am I the asshole?
It's a little philanthropist.
What a kind soul.
I know. I don't think she's an asshole. I think she wants the best for her kid, obviously. But I think the solution here is to like have a conversation. And it's so funny because I feel like I'm not a parent, but just like what I've been exposed to, it seems like so much of like raising kids is based off of like behavior therapy almost, instead of just having respect for the child and understanding that like in many ways, like adults are still children, and in many ways children are adults. Clearly, like if they're behaving in this way. And I just think to at least start there and to maybe ask the child, why is this something that you want to do? And exploring that and getting an understanding of the personality and values of the kid, and then moving from there as opposed to just trying to like stop or start behavior. But I don't know. What do you think?
I'm really torn on this one. And I haven't read any of the comments yet. I'm like sitting here. I'm just like, I literally Google movies before they end. So I'm just like, I'm dying to read the comments. It is like interesting because it's like, okay, if this was an older child, I would immediately be like, no, not the asshole. You're teaching him like money doesn't grow on trees, financial responsibility, all that jazz. So I'm like, okay, if it was an older kid, I'd be like, no, not the asshole. But the fact he's 4, are you exploiting your kid to then pay for like your friend's food and stuff? Right. But at the same time, like it's your husband's money, but also your money kind of in a sense. So I don't even know. I'm kind of in the boat of just like everyone sucks.
Yeah. And it's also like is the message that will be received that it's not good to be generous, or that people will only value you if you are paying for them? It could go one of two ways. Oh my God, yeah. Which is a big risk.
I got pregnant off a first date and lied to my ex and told him it was his baby. Am I wrong for this? My ex broke up with me last year for cheating on him. Very bad start. He caught me making out with the coworker after work. Of course, I begged him to stay with me, but he was not taking me back. After he broke up with me, I was super happy though. It meant I could finally hook up with guys again. I felt free and I started hoeing out. Okay. The breakup was pretty bad though on my end. Unfortunately, I had just gotten fired from my job and he was the only person helping me pay for my rent. Girl, you cheated on a man that helped you pay for your rent? I started working at a strip club when I was 18 years old and my parents had kicked me out. By the time I met him, I got fired from the strip club for fighting too much with all the other dancers. When I got fired from the strip club, I only had about $200 in my savings. My boyfriend let me live in his apartment rent-free for 6 months. I basically became a stay-at-home girlfriend and I would cook his meals, do his laundry, clean his apartment. He works in tech and makes a lot of money, so for him, this was no issue. The more I tell this story, the more ungrateful I sound. I swear I'm a good person. That's when my ex got me a job at the company that he worked for. Began as an assistant and I was earning really good money. That's when I met a guy at the company. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, that's so funny. Unfortunately, we were very attracted to each other and I couldn't resist. So your poor boyfriend at this point has gotten you a job, let you live in his apartment rent-free for 6 months. Treated you like a queen apparently, so you go and cheat on him, okay? We started hooking up in his car, but really wasn't anything serious. Fast forward to when he caught me cheating, he kicked me out of his house the very same day. I didn't even have a suitcase, so I had to put everything in trash bags. So embarrassing. I ended up sneaking into my own house and sleeping in my old bedroom without my parents noticing. Luckily, my ex did not get me fired from the job and I was able to save some money. After a full week of crying for my ex, I decided to sign up for some dating apps. The first few dates were horrible. The first guy asked me to split a bill, and the second one pressured me into doing it. He so didn't have to, like, at all. 2 months later, my period is super late, but I knew that I had only done it with one of the guys that I had been on a date with in the past 2 months. I went to get a pregnancy test and it came out positive. I immediately called the guy that got me pregnant and he denied everything. By the way, this is the guy that pressured me into doing it. That's when I thought I should just tell my ex that I'm pregnant and make him believe it's his baby. And essentially that's exactly what I did. I called my ex crying and I told him that I needed to see him immediately. His reaction was not at all what I expected. He actually started to cry and said that he would help me out. At this point, he hadn't even asked if the baby was his. He hasn't mentioned a paternity test and he completely blindly believes me. I moved back into his apartment, he gave me a debit card and a credit card, and we're happier than ever. I sometimes feel like an asshole for doing this, but I know that there was no way I could raise that kid on my own. Do you think I'm wrong for this?
I, 30 female, have an identical twin sister, and for the purpose of anonymity, I'll call her Jess. Jess and I look so much alike it can be freaky. At one point when we were still infants, they had to draw a little dot on the bottom of one of our feet just so they could keep track of who was who for medical reasons. My mom adored the fact that Jess and I were cute baby twin girls and treated us as precious dolls who she would frequently dress alike and always make us do things together. At first, I didn't mind it at all because it was my normal and I do genuinely love my sister, but when we started getting older, I developed my own interest. I would get so frustrated or upset when I either couldn't do something because Jess didn't want to, or the only other way I could do it is if Jess could come with me and vice versa. It sucked because despite our appearances, Jess was the more extroverted twin who liked to go to parties and do sports, while I was introverted and artistic. I was always made to do what Jess wanted to do because me not wanting to be social was seen as bad, and the only way that Jess would agree or endure my hobbies was if I did her homework or chores. When my parents were divorcing, I was over the moon when my dad agreed to let me live with him in another state, and Jess didn't want to move away from all of her friends. My mom cried when I had to tell her I didn't want to live with her and Jess accused me of hating them. This really wrecked me emotionally and I almost caved, but my dad got me into therapy who helped me gather the courage to just leave. I never really did shake off the guilt until around senior year of high school, but I never once regretted my choice because of how liberating I felt by getting to just be me. I was slowly able to repair my relationship with my mom and Jess, but Jess and I were never as close as we used to be, and I was honestly fine with that. Fast forward to adulthood and Jess is engaged to her boyfriend Steve, 36 male, and their wedding is set for this spring. Unfortunately, Jess was recently in a bad accident and her face is going to need to get cosmetic surgery. She has been crying on and off for days over this because there's no way she'll be healed up in time for the wedding. My mom, Steve, and I have been trying to console her, but it's not enough. Earlier this week, my mom approached me with the idea of dressing up as Jess and pretending to be her for the ceremony and reception so the pictures will look nice. I was floored and gave a hesitant no because while I do know that this would mean a lot to my sister, I just really felt uncomfortable about it. My mom was upset with me and said that it wasn't a big deal, it was just for the pictures, and asked me if I really wanted to make it so that Jess would have to be reminded of her trauma whenever she had to look at her wedding photos or just not have any photos at all. So, am I the asshole? She has an update to some questions people had. Jess and Steve's wedding is booked at their dream venue, and if they postpone it, which is in about 3 weeks, they won't be able to book again until around 2025. And families on both sides are coming from out of state. Apparently, between the wedding costs and needing to save up for cosmetic surgery, Steve and Jess don't have the money to pay for professional Photoshop. We live in America, and as far as I know, since Jess's surgery is purely for cosmetic purposes, health insurance may not cover it, if any at all. My mom was the only one who actually approached me about this, so I don't know for sure if Jess and Steve know about this idea. And I'm honestly a little scared of actually talking to them about this in case they're on board and start to pressure me into agreeing.